I know this application is late. Unfortunately for me, I only found out about this program and about the Apolitical Academy the day after the applications have closed. I even called your office in Joburg and asked if I could apply late, and you said no. However, I've gone and done it anyway. So my name is James Fraser. At the end of this month, I'll be 22 years old. I grew up in Pretoria, in a town called Centurion, that used to be called Verwoerdburg. That's a true fact. I went to a school called Cornwall Hill College. As a kid, I was a scout. I was fortunate enough to be a part of Rotary and to do a student exchange where I lived in the Netherlands for a little bit. But I was pretty keen to get out of Centurion. And so after I matriculated, I went to Rhodes University. It was about as far away as I could get, not geographically, but certainly culturally. There, I majored in philosophy and sociology. And for the duration of my time at Rhodes, I was part of the Alan Gray Center for Ethical Leadership, which was an independently funded arm of the philosophy department that was started by Mr. Alan Gray to try and create ethical leaders. When I first joined in my first year, it was called Existential Conversations. It wasn't credit-bearing, it was completely voluntary. And then in my second year, it became credit-bearing, and they asked me to come back and to facilitate my own conversations. And in my third year, they even asked me to lecture. And this is where I live. Pretty cute, right? I live in a small village called Ngaleni here in the former Transkei. Completely off the grid, collecting rainwater and solar power. It's going to be a bit of a struggle on a day like this. So I bet you're wondering, what's a white boy from the suburbs of Pretoria doing in a village in the Eastern Cape? And the answer is that I wanted to take a break from studying to try and learn something that I wouldn't be able to get in a classroom environment. I had a friend who was also studying with me at Rhodes, and he became very disillusioned with the humanities faculty because he felt that each department was just trying to find different ways of asking the same question. And I think he was right. I think that whole university environment is struggling with the same question, right? The national question about how do we go forward. And I want to play my part in answering that question. But I realized that I don't even understand the language that the question is being asked in. And for me to complete and to do the things that I want to do in my life, I realized I need to be able to speak the vernacular here in this country. So I decided it had to be in Nguni language, and I picked Xhosa because it was the more difficult one. My thinking is that it's the master key. If I get this one, it'll unlock the rest. So what's the biggest challenge facing the citizens of South Africa? Well, my first initial thought was that historically this country has a history of leaders that just don't hear the needs of the people. You know, whether it's a small white minority not listening, whether it's a small political class not listening. But upon further reflection, I think undeniably the biggest problem facing South Africa is income inequality. There's no two ways about it. The gap between rich and poor is just too big. The gap of wealth, of knowledge, of education, it's just too much. Our Gini coefficient is the worst in the whole world, and it's getting worse. That and the simple fact that in this country, we don't know each other. We just don't, you know. We grow up in these little bubbles, these little colonies, you know. And I hope that my generation, the born frees, the frees must fall generation, will be the generation to bridge that gap. I have this vision of me being an old Madala in my 70s or whatever, and I'll look back on this period of time and say it was us, It was us who bridged that gap between black and white, between rich and poor, that showed the rest of the world another option, another way of doing things. And I believe in the potential of this country for exactly that, and that we will find this way forward, because we have to. There's no alternative. We either learn to live together as brothers, or we die together as fools. And I just want to play my part in bringing this country into its future, in answering the national question. Thank you very much for your time.